afternoon, and thank you for taking the time to listen to this presentation. Exploring why followers may